Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about an issue that is domestic to Nigeria, and that is the issue of killings and banditry in northern Nigeria. So, across from Adamawa all the way to Zamfara, in the last 3 weeks, 14 days, 21 days, almost 200 people have been killed in different communities. A lot of the violence has come out of the Borno state. Boko Haram have taken credit for the killings, but the killings and the banditry actually spread across most of northern Nigeria, right? So a few days ago, there were quite a few. There were protests in Katsina, and the protest went as far as calling for the resignation of the president, who is from that state, as well as the governor of the state. And both the president and the governor of the state belong to the ruling party, the party that runs this current administration. So I'm going to circle all the way back to that. Now, I'd like to go into something that happened last week as well. Last week, I was invited on a panel to speak about Biafra. And for those who do not know about Biafra, what happened, the Biafran War was a war that lasted from, I think, 1967 to maybe late 69 or early 70. And it had to do with people of eastern Nigeria having endured what was fundamentally a genocide, right? And a lot of injustice. Basically, all of them came back to eastern Nigeria, to their own region, and they formed a country. They wanted a country. Nigeria, the country, saw that as treason and went to war. So there was a 3-year civil war. I won't go into the details. The important thing for now, for my purposes, is that so as far as the Igbo people are concerned, the injustice has continued, right? Yes, they lost the civil war. Nigeria became one country. They suffered the indignity of losing the war. They lost all of their money. You know, the injustices of the war were never, the country as a whole never really engaged with the question of that, of the war. And there was no restitution, whether emotional or mental. There was no Truth and Reconciliation Commission, for instance. Nothing. It's just been swept under the carpet, and the Igbos also feel that subsequently they have been marginalized, right? As far as the administration, subsequent administrations, right, historically have marginalized them. It's almost as if they're constantly punished, right, for being the ethnic group that dared to try to break away, and all sorts of issues, emotions, anger that come with that. So that is not my purpose here. But I just wanted to provide that as background, right? And but what has happened recently is that recently people have been trying, or Igbo people have formed a group called IPOB, and IPOB is trying to create another country. Again, like Biafra, they're like, no, we're going to revisit this Biafra issue. We want our own country, because even after the Civil War, we have been marginalized in the country, right? So recently, I was asked to speak on an event that had to do with, you know, revisiting the Igbo people, the desire for Biafra, etc., etc. So I was on this panel, and it was very, very interesting. But so the cornerstone, again for background, the cornerstone of the whole Biafra business is that since the Civil War, even before the Civil War, the injustice that was meted out to predominantly Igbo people from eastern Nigeria was perpetrated by the ruling ethnic group, the mostly northern Nigerians, mostly Muslims, and mostly Fulanis or Hausa people. They've been in charge of the government. They've had political power. They were in bed with the British, who helped them win the Civil War. And because they've been ruling the country, they've had a lot of political power, they have somehow marginalized Igbo people. The workshop illustrated two things to me. First is that among the ranks of the IPOBians, I will call them, those are the ones that are agitating for Biafra, there are a lot of hateful, irrational, and tribalistic people within the group. Now, I'm not trying to say that every single person that wants a country, the country Biafra to exist, are all irrational, tribalistic, or hateful, but I'd like to point out that among their ranks, there are a lot of people that are just they're just irrational and basically tribalistic, and they take tribalism as a badge of honor, which I find really problematic. Now, one sign of a tribalistic person is sheer irrational hatred of the other. The person has decided that a certain category should be hated. There's no nuance, there's no benefit of the doubt, there's no difference between one member of this hated group or the other. They're just all lumped together and they're completely hated. Now, when you're dealing with a tribalistic person, one thing that comes out is that anything you say or do that does not support, that does not come from a place of hatred and resentment of this same or other, is received by the tribalist as an attack, right? And what the tribalistic person does is that they attack you back immediately. They just come at you and they're like, oh, you're evil, you're a sellout, you hate them, you hate the cause, and they just freak out on you. Now, the second thing the workshop showed me is, from the comment thread, is a deep irrationality. Now, I don't use that to say that they're not well, though that's debatable. The issue here is that if I'm going to have a conversation with you, it should be grounded on A, then B, therefore C. There should be some logic, right? And it should be based on cold, hard facts. Now, one thing about tribalistic people is that they do not rely on logic. They do not rely on cold, hard facts. Now, I'm not trying to say they don't use facts. They use facts. So they will tell you categorically that, oh, the sun is shining in the sky. But their entire argument, after a while, just lets go of facts and just gets to their conclusion. Or they will use facts only so far as it takes them to where they wanted to go all along. So you can't change their minds, right? You can't give them contradictory arguments. Anything you bring up, oh, you're just making up excuses. So any occurrence that does not reinforce their position, they will claim that, you know, that it's incorrect or you're a sellout or whatever. Another thing I've noticed among the particular group, and what this showed me, is that, so because there's no rationality, there's no self-reflection. So I've never been to a Biafra or an iPod meeting where there's self-reflection, where people are asking, okay, why did we lose the war? What internal faults do we have as a people that made us lose? And what is it that threatens us right now internally, that no matter what the world gives us can cause us to combust or collapse inside? And how do we address these challenges? I've never been in that kind of conversation, right? Maybe it exists and maybe someone should invite me, but I've never seen it. Then, which all circles back to my third problem. When I talk to IPOB people, nobody gives me a plan. Nobody tells me that, you know what, in your day-to-day business, if you do this, you will lead us closer to what we're trying to do, what we're hoping to achieve. Nobody has ever said that to me. I have not seen any, no matter how ephemeral, any plan that says, okay, no matter where you are, whether you're in the US, whether you're in China, whether you're in Nigeria, whether you're in Zimbabwe, if you do this, it will lead us to what we're trying to accomplish. But so when I ask them that, what is the plan, right? What I get is this hatred, this resentment, this anger, like, oh, we've been marginalized. Well, one of the things I'd like to tell my fellow IPOBians is that hatred is not a plan. Hatred is not an agenda. Now, I can hate anybody I want and anybody can hate me. It doesn't matter who hates me or who doesn't hate me, right? Of course, it matters if the person has some power over me, but at the end of the day, there's little I can do to control that. Now, what I can control is what I'm trying to accomplish as a group or as a person. Now, if I throw my weight into it and I go for it, well, maybe I'll get there. But sitting around and just hating and being hated back, I don't know if it's a plan. I also find it interesting that I'm not the only one that has gotten blowback from this group. Apparently, recently, Pete Edochie said to somebody, or he made an utterance that that you're agitating for Biafra, but Biafra is landlocked, right? And which is one of the reasons why Biafra lost the war, because if it had a seaport, it would, hunger or starvation would not have been such an effective war policy, or starvation. One of the things that the powers that be did was they basically starved the group, right? They starved the community, made sure that no food was going in or coming out, and they just basically blocked them in from every direction. So Peter Edochie now said, look, we're landlocked. So the Igbo land in itself is landlocked, unless you're going to get people that are not really Igbo to join the Biafran cause, then maybe you will have access to the sea. Apparently, they went at him. They came at him and they would not, they told him everything, threw at him the kitchen sink and everything involved. And he now says that apparently the person, his interlocutor, couldn't tell the difference between landmass and landlocked, and he said that, well, the person should get better education, whatever. But the reason I illustrate this is that, for me, this exchange with Peter Edochie shows that most IPOBians, or a substantial part of the IPOBians, don't sit down and have logical conversations, discourse, debates. They seem to lack the ability to debate. Now, the mere fact that somebody says something to you doesn't mean that the person is right. It means that the person has presented an idea, and one of the things you could do is present the person with a superior argument. But no, apparently I'm not the only one that they were abusing thoroughly. They went at Peter Edochie as well. But one of the things, now in conclusion to this set of videos, what I'd like to point out is this. So in Katsina recently, as I started with, there was there were protests because Katsina people are like, look, President Buhari, if you cannot protect us from bandits, then there's no point in being a part of this country. If we're going to sit in our villages and someone comes, rapes our mothers, our daughters, just generally wipes us out, take our food and run away, well, sorry, we're not if you can't provide us with protection, sorry, we're just not part of the country. And if you can't deliver on that minimum standard of protection of lives and property, then please resign. Okay, which I feel is very, very legitimate. Even if it's wrong, it's legitimate. If you cannot protect me, what does it mean to be part of a sovereign nation if you cannot protect me? If anybody can stroll into my community and kill half of my community, right? Now, this was happening in Katsina. Now, Katsina youth went as far as burning down billboards of the president, who I mentioned earlier is from their state. Okay? Now, and this brings me right back to IPOB. One of the accusations, central accusations of IPOB is they hate us. The president hates us, the ruling class hates us, and we hate him back, and we just want our own country. Now, if you hate the president so much, now this is not I'm not recommending anything, but this is the point I'm making. If you had a plan and you really detested the president so much, this will be your opportunity to work with Katsina youth to remove him from office, if you had a plan. If you had a plan, you will see, president is weak right now, ruling class weak. Okay, how do we step in? How do we make this favor us? But there's nothing like that. There's this utter silence, at least with regards to this issue of insecurity in northern Nigeria among IPOB people. So my question is, and I'm going to end with this point. At the end of the day, it seems to me that in Nigeria is a very dysfunctional country. There are problems. Most Nigerians my age have never really experienced good infrastructure. Water, sanitation, and hygiene, not there. Education in shambles. And it's been like that for decades. And it is like that across the country. So if Igbo people say to me that, we can do better by ourselves, that is an argument. Then get yourself together, do the referendum, or get senators on your side to call for national dialogue. But you see, sitting down and hating somebody and just screaming and shouting about how you're marginalized, I don't see how that is a plan. You know, the only people that are doing well in Nigeria are filthy rich people. And what they do, they ship their children abroad to go to school. They provide their own infrastructure, they can afford it. And when they're tired of it all, they just buy a house abroad. Every other person is living in a dysfunctional society, and it has nothing to do with your ethnic group. It has nothing to do with where you come from. We're all suffering in this. So if some people feel that, okay, if we slave our country away, we'll do better, that is fine. But please have a plan. That's one. And the second one is, please do not go around saying that, oh, they are treating us badly. Because apparently, from the burning and the riots in Katsina and the banditry in northern Nigeria, it seems as if the entire country is insecure. And the way you solve a problem is not by screaming and shouting and trying to look out for yourself. The way you solve a problem is bring it out, discuss it, figure out what sacrifices you have to make to get to where you're going. Then maybe, just maybe, I will also join the Biafra cause. Thanks. Bye.